The 23rd of February was a benchmark day that marked the closing of two great projects at Malahide Castle. Tara's Palace, one of the world's top 3 dolls palaces, and the Fry Model Railway, a truly world-class heritage collection of historic models. A large crowd of enthusiasts and supporters gathered that morning for a final look at Tara's Palace in this setting and to see the trains run for a final time on the brilliant layout created by Tom Tighe. These projects had operated for 2 decades and entertained hundreds of thousands. Tara's Palace is inspired by 3 of the greatest Irish 18th century houses: Castletown House, Carton House and Leinster House. The intention is to reproduce in miniature all the features of the great Georgian house in all of its detail in the ceilings, fine furnishings and layout. Tara's Palace was the result of many years of dedicated work by Ron and Doreen McDonnell and the trustees. It was born out of despair at the loss of Titania's Palace and now ranks with it as one of the miniature wonders of the world. Its mission was to raise funds for children's charities. The palace will now move to new premises and will reopen in a different format in April. This was a particularly special day for many. Jane Williams, who has been involved in Tara's Palace since its inception, is saddened by the move but determined that the palace will rise again stronger than ever. And with Jane and Jenny Johnston, Cedric Christie, Nicola O'Connor and some of the volunteers who dedicated their time to ensuring the enjoyment of all visitors.
Unfortunately, we lost the original palace, and then Matt and a few of us said we would substitute, and we did. The same proportions, but not the same interior. And it has been, thank goodness, a great success. People have been very good. There are some beautiful rooms in the palace and some lovely items in the dining room, and the games room is rather fun. I'll take you on for a game of billiards. But it should remain, you know, it's very wrong for us to, and we should be united with the railway.
And you're looking well.
One enhances the other, and it's lovely to have it housed under one roof.
The Fry Model Railway Museum is dedicated to the work of Cyril Fry and his wife Nancy. Cyril, an engineer and master modeler, had devoted his life to the creation of a unique and historical collection which represents the entire railway heritage of Ireland from 1834. It includes all the quirky narrow gauge and mainline railways, such as the unique monorail Lotique, the giant turf-burning engine during World War II, the battery-operated drum train and the rail cars of Donegal narrow gauge. All of these represented unique and customized solutions from the length and breadth of Ireland. All are represented by the exactly produced models of Cyril Fry. They form a true heritage collection, as Fry was not only an exacting model maker, but he built many of his models directly from the original full-size plans. Many helped to expand Tom Tighe's excellent platform and contributed to its development. The museum displays have remained comprehensively relevant, as it continued to commission or make new models as new trains appeared and was fully up to date as it closed in 2011. Those who expanded and developed on Tom Tighe's work included John Dunn, Herbert Alexander, Eamon Kearney, Kieran and Gerard McGowan, Pat O'Brien, Jeremy Clements and others, including the photographs of John Kennedy. Patricia Dillon, a daughter of Cyril and Nancy Fry, attended the day with her children and grandchildren. You could say that 4 generations of the Fry family were there. This is a special place for them, and the collection of their parents is an icon in the history of Irish railways and global modelling perfection. John Hamill of the Irish Model Railway Society and Joe Gunning of the Railway Preservation Society have been tireless in drumming up support among their memberships, as have many others. Al Ryan from the Malahide Chamber of Commerce, the Community Forum and the Lions Club were there, as are former officials from Fingal County Council, including Willie Soph, former county manager, and Michael Lynch, former Senior Parks Superintendent. It is always distressing to preside over a double closure, but everyone there showed solidarity that these great projects are not lost. Matt McNulty was a founder of Tara's Palace and also conceived the idea of the Fry Museum, bringing it to fruition. Matt made a poignant speech on the day.
Have your attention for a few minutes, just to say a few words to you before we go inside for the presentation of the Fry Railway. I think the lot to speak fell on me, because I think I'm the only one left above ground who actually had a connection with both the projects that you've seen today. Because I had the honour of acquiring the Cyril Fry collection from the Fry family. I was involved in building this building, and for my sins I was also a founding member of Tara's Palace, which I hope you've all taken the opportunity to see. I wasn't alone, however. I didn't do this by myself. I had a lot of help. And I particularly like to recognise the attendance here this morning of Patricia Dillon and her family. Patricia is Cyril Fry's daughter, and I know from listening to her on the Joe Duffy programme that she had quite a lot to do in terms of the railway inside, probably knows more about it than any of us. I'd also welcome you on behalf of the trustees of Tara's Palace Trust. And I'm delighted that we have with us today Jane Williams, Cedric Christie over here, and Jenny Johnson, who are 3 trustees who, like myself, are volunteers running Tara's Palace, and we give 100% of the proceeds we take on the door to children's charities. And we've just distributed 2 months ago 30,000 to 6 children's charities. You see the names of the people in the past we've helped. But we've also done things like sponsor instruments for people of exceptional talent. We've given scholarships to various things and things like that over the years, because that was the objective of our founders. And I'd also like to welcome and recognise Nicola and John and Jeremy and Pat and Mary and Greta, who are here with us. All of these are people who staff both the Fry Railway and Tara's Palace, and many of them are volunteers. And also like to recognise Kieran McGowan here, who's sitting down, who was involved in making many of the engines that we ran inside, and Herbert Alexander, who's here around somewhere, who was an operator for many years, and Sean Kennedy, and many others. Now, because this is a particular occasion, I do want to thank people, and I hope I don't leave anybody out, but I think it would be remiss of me not to thank Joe Duffy, because he's probably the reason that we're all here today on the Liveline programme. But standing behind all this, there were a lot of other people, and I'd like to recognise Michael Lynch here, from the Senior Park Superintendent from what used to be Dublin County Council and so forth. And Michael is a man of tremendous vision, and it was part of that vision that these projects and Malahide Castle were actually restored and presented to the public. And he's one of the few people in the world that I know that I can say with all honesty he understood all of our heritage. Natural heritage, because he was looking after the parks; built heritage, because he had a portfolio of buildings to look after; industrial heritage, because he restored a number of projects there; and the man-made heritage. And with him beside us here, and we're very honoured that Willie Soff is coming along this morning, but Willie is a former manager of Fingal County Council, and in fact it was under Willie's watch that he allocated us the building that Tara's Palace is now in, and he officiated at the opening of that building. So great to see them here. And I couple with them Paddy Delaney, who's also here this morning, retired Parks administrator of Malahide itself, because Paddy is a Trojan worker. What I can say about these people, as was said of Christopher Wren in St. Paul's Cathedral, if you want to see their monument, just look around you at any of the parks and any of the great creations that they have created in Dublin. We are expecting the family of Ambassador Dan Rooney, who wanted to come when he heard about it on Liveline. Can't be here himself, but the family are coming a little bit later for the 12 o'clock. But I think I would recognise him. John Hamill is here with us this morning. John is a military man, UN trained. He's also a railway man. So that's a lethal combination of organisational ability and pure passion. And John has been doing a fantastic job as a major protector of the Fry Railway, because he's really feels the passion for the heritage that's involved here. This is not just another railway. This is something which represents, with Tara's Palace, a combined work of 60 years approximately by two visionary people, Cyril Fry and Ron and Doreen MacDonald, who were the architects of the palace next door. Also like to welcome David Houston, who's chairman of the Railway Preservation Society of Ireland, who's here with a large group. There's about 10 people here from the Preservation Society. We're hoping that you guys will give us some help if we have to move from here, because these are delicate things. We can't just go out into the street and get people to come and pack them or move them or whatever. So we will need help there. And we have Joe Gunning here, who's also, I think he wouldn't sue me if I call him a railway fanatic. And Joe has been manning the reception desk outside there and brought along people with him. Al Ryan is here from the Chamber of Commerce, and Margaret Curie and Hazel Bolton from the Malahide Forum, which is the collection. So that gives you an idea of just how many people and how many organisations are here. There's people here from the Railway Heritage Society, there's people here from the Railway Record Society, there's people here that have had a direct connection with the Fry collection since they saw it in Mr. Fry's house in Churchtown. Now what we see today is a result of the vision of two people. Cyril Fry on one side, who was the architect of the Fry Railway, and I have to couple with him Tommy Thai, who did the current layout inside, because Tommy was an absolute genius, as indeed was Cyril. And the vision of these two men, when you combine it, was tremendous. And I couple with them all the workers that I've mentioned who have been involved in that. Ron and Doreen MacDonald were equal visionaries, because when we failed to buy back Titania's Palace, which some of the older people may remember and some people here may have even seen, Titania's Palace sold in London about 30 years ago for £130,000. I had just bought a house in Malahide at the time for just under 10,000. So you can imagine if a doll's house. Now we were the underbidders on it, and I was not looking forward coming back trying to explain to my minister how we bought a doll's house for 135,000 sterling at a time when you could buy a house in Malahide at 10,000 Irish pounds. But however, when we were in the pub afterwards, consoling ourselves at not buying this, Ronnie said, after we had a couple of drinks, he said, "Irish people did this before, surely to God we can do it again." And we all said yes, and we nodded, and we didn't realise at that time it was going to take us 15 years before we had something that we could actually present, because to furnish a room in Tara's Palace costs on average 60 to 70,000 in terms of the quality of the things that are in it. It's not a doll's house for children to play with. It's an expression of miniaturization, which is the peak of cabinet making in terms, and all those small pieces fetch even greater prices than things. Now, one thing that has come out of this moving is that nothing unites people like a crisis, and there's a lot of passion which is being poured out. And to be honest with you, we who are working here on these projects, I have to say in all honesty, we didn't realise there was so much passion out there for the exposure that was got on the Joe Duffy programme. I'm not sure today, as we stand here, I'm not sure whether this is a funeral and we're about to administer the last rites, or I'm not sure whether we're going to get a transplant and give the two patients a new life. That has to wait, I think, until later on in the week. But I know that all of you are here this morning because you care about what's happening here. And the number of people who have shown that they care, and the number of people who have been in contact, has shown us how much care there is out there for two critical parts of our heritage. Because both of these projects are in the world class in their area. The Fry collection and the Fry Railway is in the top 3 in the world, possibly even in the top spot in the world. And Tara's Palace is definitely in the top 3 in terms of dolls' palaces, because when I was head of the tourist board and travelling around the world, I made it my business everywhere I went to see if there was a railway museum or a children's museum, and I didn't see anything that can top either the Fry or Tara's Palace. So we have two unique things here. And my hope is that when you put these two unique world-class projects together, we have something that is of real value to Irish people and that. I think we have to remind ourselves of what was said at the Farmley Conference when people were collected from all over the world. What conclusion did they come to? What they said is the only sector of this country which didn't let the country down was its arts and culture sector. And that the arts and culture sector, because they attract creative people, they really are one of the lead sectors in terms of the resurgence that we need to install in order to get out of where we are today. Now we have, as a result of the programme, I have to say, generosity of people have astounded us, and we have many offers from people, some people who are even here in the audience as I speak. And while we can't have discussions today because we're just too busy, I will be in touch with every one of you and we will work something out, because these cases have to get serious consideration if we have to move. I think our desire is that the Fry Railway in particular would not move, because every time you move these things you cause damage, you waste money, and it's a time when we shouldn't be wasting money. I'd much prefer to see the money invested in upgrading and making better what we have here. We in Tara's Palace, just so that you should know it, did make a bid for the Fry Railway. We have a bid in for the book value of the railway, not because we want to buy the railway, but because we want to put a safety net under it so that it doesn't get broken up and sold off in bits and pieces. And if we're successful in that bid, the intention the trustees have is to combine these two projects, if that's possible, that's our desired outcome, and to run them for children's charity, as we have been doing with Tara's Palace. I think that's a worthy aim indeed. It's very comforting for us that so many of you have come to our aid, and we are looking to the railway enthusiasts and indeed anybody who feels strongly about our heritage. Now, Nicola's here with me, and Nicola said to me, you know, when she was listening to the Joe Duffy programme, I unfortunately was at a meeting in Northern Ireland. She kept texting me saying, you have to go on the programme. They're not mentioning Tara's Palace, only the Fry Model Railway. So I had to explain to her, I said, Nicola, you've got to understand, railway people are fanatics. The Tara's Palace supporters are just normal people like you and I. This morning at 7 o'clock, a friend of mine in Northern Ireland, nothing, just sent me a poem. He said, I got this and I was thinking of you. And one thing about me is I'm a little bit superstitious. I believe there's good days for doing things and bad days for doing things. But I thought when I looked at the poem, it sort of summed up for me the vision of people like Cyril Fry, of people like Ron and Doreen MacDonald, of people like Michael Lynch and Willie Soff in the council. And it's things that haven't been done before. That's the name of the poem. And it's by an Anglo-American poet, who's not a great poet, I have to say, called Edgar Allan Guest. And it goes as follows. A few strike out without map or chart, where never a man has been. From the beaten paths they draw apart, to see what no man has seen. There are deeds they hunger alone to do, through battered and bruised and sore. They blaze the path for many, who do nothing not done before. I think those people that I've mentioned were all involved in leaving that path and taking a path which has resulted in 2 world-class projects that, as long as there's breath in us, these projects will not be allowed to fail. Whether they stay here or they move, that's a question for another day. I thank you all for being here, and I have invited Patricia to say a few words to us, because she goes right back to the early days of this railway, and I would like her to say a few words from the heart. She tells me she's not a practice speaker, and we accept that. But Patricia, we would like to hear from you, because this is a special occasion for us, and we know it's a very memorable occasion for you and your family. You don't have to stand up on this ladder, it's a bit wonky, but if you come up here where you have a little bit more space.
First of all, I would like to thank you all very much and very sincerely for myself and the rest of my family for coming here today, and all of you who got onto the Joe Duffy show, and maybe a lot of other people who weren't able to get onto the show. You've highlighted this collection, all museum, every bit of it handmade, that my father made all during his life here. The models that you see, everything is made from the wheels were cast. My mum did all the casting. Wartime was on, nothing could be got, so the actual motors, the armatures had to be wound with copper wire to have them running. And he was he was the first person that produced engines that puffed out smoke. I was reading very recently letters that I have at home that I haven't really read, and I was amazed at the response from constructors, model companies, visitors that had come to the house. Their description of the railway and the craftsmanship and magnificence of it. These letters described it as a masterpiece. It would have been lovely for all of you to have seen it actually in Churchtown itself, rather than being moved. I want to say that the models, the layout that's inside is absolutely fantastic, and Tommy Tighe and all his friends have done a wonderful thing in having a moving exhibition, because not that many people would be interested in the history here, so you have to have a moving demonstration, and it's fantastic what he has done along with his friends and what Matt has achieved. Matt has left me very little to say because he's thanked you all, but I would like to ask Fingal County Council to reconsider their decision. It would be such a shame for it to be moved. I want to thank all the people that offered other premises, and really thank you all very, very much.
Hear, hear.
the gap between the train and the platform.
The next train to depart from platform 4 is the 1610.
Attention please, this is a platform observation.
try to clear the doors, please?
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a security announcement. Please ensure that you keep all your personal belongings with you at all times. Any unclaimed articles may be removed or destroyed.
Is glas hier met kok bewaarden?
The day was concluded by John Hamill, who spoke for everyone present.
It's my firm opinion, which I shared on Liveline, that the collection that we have out there, the Fry collection, and the working railway that we have in here, are unique not only on this island, but in these islands and indeed possibly in Europe. To me, to see them broken down, perhaps sold off piecemeal, perhaps damaged in storage, would have been a major cultural crime, and I use that term advisedly. Particularly when I heard that the reason for it was to facilitate a retail centre. 2011 and we are building a retail centre with the country full of closed down retail centres. We're building a high end here which will take away from the centre businesses in the centre of Malahide. It would suck the life from the village of Malahide. I don't live there myself, but I think it's a wonderful town, it's got a wonderful spirit, and it should not be done. What are we looking for? We are looking for, first of all, Cyril Fry's models to be preserved, to be kept, to be maintained for the Irish public and for visitors from overseas. They are unique. There is nothing like them. They were built at a time when you had access to the original drawings, when you had access to the original locomotives and coaches and wagons, and could see the specific colours that were involved. Very few museum models can say that anywhere in the world. It's a unique collection. Secondly, we have a working model which demonstrates Irish history from 1834 until today. We didn't see the Lewis running today, but it was running, as Jeremy mentioned earlier on, before the prototype was running on the red or the green lines. So this is something which I personally felt very strongly about. It's something which you obviously feel very strongly about. It's something which we have to do something about. It's not up to them out there. It is up to us who are gathered here to form a pressure group, to be involved, to spread the word, to proselytise, if I may use that term advisedly, to talk to our politicians, to talk to the county managers, to Dublin Tourism, to ensure that this treasure is kept for the Irish public and, as I said, for those who are coming here overseas. It is a terrific tourist attraction. It's one which, again, it's my personal view, and I emphasise personal view, that has not been exploited properly. It's one which perhaps needs changes in presentation. It's one perhaps which needs upgrading, although it has been constantly upgraded. Again, you were told earlier on by Jeremy that it does take time to keep this in order. Clearly, there will be a need for ongoing assistance from mechanical engineers, from civil engineers on a miniature scale, and from others, from friends, in other words, to support this railway, not just in the public domain, but equally here within the castle area, within the castle environs, or wherever else it may end up. Once again, I'd just like to thank you for coming. Matt said practically everything. I don't know where I found the few words that I did, but thank you very much for coming, and particularly great to see Patricia here and to have heard her few words which connect to the very spirit of this exhibit and the exhibit that her father and mother made outside. So once again, thank you very much indeed.
And so comes to an end a very special day that is tinged with great sadness and uncertainty. We may never see its likes again. The vision and labour of Run and Doreen MacDonald, and of Cyril Fry, including all those who followed, left a unique legacy that must be respected and cherished, and should continue to bring joy and wonderment to adults and children alike, as they have done for over 2 decades at Malahide.